Steph, Guillen's family is there today to introduce the hashtag I Am Vanessa Guillen bill. If passed, the bill will allow active duty service members to safely report sexual harassment and assault claims to a third-party agency instead of their chain of command. The Guillen family will hold a news conference at the National Mall at 7:30 Houston time. From there, they'll join supporters and members of Congress for a march from the Capitol building to the White House. Guillen's family attorney says they'll then meet with President Trump about the case. Yesterday was the first U.S. House of Representatives hearing focused on the sexual harassment, disappearance, and killing of Guillen. The Army specialist went missing from Fort Hood April 22nd. Her family says she had told them she was being sexually harassed. More than 2 months later, her body was found in a shallow grave about 30 miles from the base. A federal complaint alleges that a fellow soldier is to blame. Guillen's death captured the attention of celebrities and lawmakers, and it's really ramped up the military's Me Too movement. Back to you.